Marcus didn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard the rails, metal screaming against metal, dragging something enormous through the dark. At 12:11 a.m., his phone vibrated, but there was no notification, no message, just the vibration. On the screen, a countdown appeared. 00:36. His heart began to race. 35, 34. He held his breath, staring at the numbers, listening to the metallic screeching grow louder outside his window. Marcus ran out of his apartment, down the stairwell, into the street. The city looked wrong. Streetlights flickered like dying candles, and the air smelled like rust and rain, though the sky was clear. The sound came from beneath his feet. Tracks. There hadn't been tracks here before. They pushed up through the asphalt like bones breaking skin. A distant whistle shrieked, growing closer, and the ground began to tremble. He was standing in the middle of a railway line that shouldn't exist. The train arrived without slowing. It didn't screech, it whispered. The doors slid open, and inside stood the conductor. This time, its face was almost human. Almost. "You tried to leave," it said softly. "I didn't agree to this," Marcus shouted, his voice trembling. The conductor tilted its head, a slow, unnatural movement. "Agreement is irrelevant," it replied, its voice a calm, chilling hum that seemed to fill the station. "Finality is not a choice." A hand touched Marcus's shoulder. Lena. But her eyes were wrong, too dark, like the windows of the train. "They let me off once," she said quietly. "It doesn't mean you're free." Marcus stumbled back. "You died," he whispered. She nodded. "3 nights ago. You just didn't notice." The station lights flickered, and for a moment, her face was just a dark shape against the glare. When his vision cleared, the platform was empty. He was alone, but he could still feel the cold from her touch seeping into his skin. The platform was crowded now. People Marcus had seen that day. The barista, a bus driver, a child holding a broken toy. None of them were screaming. That was worse. The silence was a heavy blanket, suffocating. "Why us?" Marcus whispered, his voice trembling. The conductor, standing eerily still, turned his head, a slow, unnatural motion. His eyes were empty voids. He answered, his voice a dry rustle of leaves. "You were close enough to hear us." Inside the train, Marcus noticed something new. Names carved into the metal walls, thousands of them. Some were old and faded, others scratched out with a violent fury. But some were still bleeding, trickling down the steel like fresh wounds. Lena, his travel companion, traced one with her finger. "That's where we sit," she said softly, her voice barely a whisper. "Until we're needed." "Needed for what?" Marcus asked, a cold dread seeping into him. The train shuddered. For the first time, it felt hungry. The lights in the train car dimmed just for a second. Outside the windows, the city wasn't there anymore. Instead, buildings folded inward in slow motion, and streets sank into a silent darkness. I turned to the woman beside me. "This isn't the future," I whispered. "No," she replied, her eyes fixed on the collapsing skyline. "It's the after image." Just then, the conductor's voice, cold and metallic, echoed through the car. "Prepare for contribution. The final stop is approaching." The train ride felt wrong. The other passengers began to change. Limbs stiffened into awkward angles. Faces blurred into unsettling smudges of color. Their bodies stretched thin like shadows pulled too far from their owners. I felt a cold tug inside my chest. Not my heart, my end. A conductor appeared beside me, his smile not reaching his eyes. He placed a hand over my chest. "You don't need all of it," he whispered. "Just enough." The train rattled, a bone-jarring rhythm in the gloom. Marcus fought, his breath catching in his throat as he gripped Lena's hand. "I won't become this," he screamed, the words swallowed by the clatter of the wheels. Lena's smile was a sad, fragile thing in the dim light. "You already have." She pushed him, her touch surprisingly firm, toward the open door as the train ground to a halt. Darkness, thick and absolute, poured in. "Jump," she whispered, the sound lost in the sudden, deafening silence. Marcus woke up screaming on the platform. He was alone. The train was gone. So were the tracks. The air hung thick and silent, heavy with the smell of ozone and something else, something metallic. He scrambled to his feet, his heart hammering against his ribs. The world felt wrong, tilted on its axis. Then a sharp, stinging sensation on his arm drew his gaze. Carved into his forearm in jagged, angry letters were 4 words he hadn't written. Next stop, conductor.